Welcome to Zion in Mind podcast. We're so excited to be here with you today.
We are. I'm Bonnie Coford.
And I'm Leland Coford.
And we're up with UpStep Development.
UpStep Development. We help people with their relationships.
Yes.
It's great to be here.
Yes.
So do you remember?
Yes. It's really been on my mind a lot because we just had the grandkids over this weekend, and it was so fun because they got all the sheets and all the blankets out of the closet.
And they pulled the cushions off the couches.
They pulled the cushions off the couches.
Yeah.
They laid the cushions all over the floor. And then they took the sheets and the blankets and they started building these forts, right?
A fort.
Okay. And did you see how they were building it with the brooms? They got
I didn't see the broom.
They got the broom out, and they were trying to put books on the back of the couches.
Oh, to hold the sheets.
To hold the sheets. And they were having so much fun building these forts, right?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And they were giggling, and they were working together, and
they tore the house apart.
They did.
It's like,
it did.
Oh my goodness.
But the thing was I thought it was so fun when they ended up taking the sheets and then they started making individual rooms. Okay, this is my spot, right?
Yeah.
And then that was their domain, and they got all their little personal things and they put them in their personal space, right?
Yes. And then of course they had to sleep there.
Oh yeah, they wanted to sleep there until the lights went out.
Yes. Then they had to be in our room.
Then they had to be in our room.
Yes. It's kind of weird, isn't it? Or interesting that we have this natural need or want to build forts.
Yeah. Yeah. To build our safe place.
Yes.
Our safe zone. We're just programmed inside, I believe, to build our own space, to build in a space where we let people in where it's safe as well.
Right.
We just don't let anybody in, right?
Yes.
Right.
And in addition to the physical forts, we have emotional forts.
Inside of us.
Right. So Zion, I don't know if you know this, Zion is the meaning of Zion is stronghold or fortress.
Yes.
And so they built Zion as a fortress.
Yes.
And we build Zion today as a spiritual fortress.
Yes.
A spiritual stronghold.
Yeah, it's a group or a community or even just a little family, right?
Right.
Where they build their own Zion, right?
Right.
And they are building how they think the same, how they feel the same, how they work together the same. Zion in itself is a stronghold,
right?
And that fortress that we need to build. And I'd love to talk about the stronghold of the family.
Right. Well, and then why do we build a fortress for our family? Because the family is under attack.
Well, it is under attack. There's so many things that are attacking the Zion, so to speak, of the family.
Mm-hmm.
Zion is being attacked from every which direction.
Yes.
Not, our poor kids and grandchildren. You see them struggling, not with just things on TV, but with friends and the people they associate with, and being attacked from the outside.
Right.
And so to build that stronghold or that fortress that's at home, and have your kids be able to come home into that safe zone, that safe place, that's the goal of a parent, right?
Right.
A mother and a father, to build that place inside of a home where the kids feel safe and can be there and relax from the outside world.
So one of the things that attack the family, that attack marriages, is problems that come up. And they could be really serious problems like money.
Yeah.
Or they could be like not significant problems.
Yeah.
But they still fight about like toothpaste.
Yeah. Who squeezes it in the middle, or how to squeeze it from the bottom up, right?
And people think that those kinds of things are the problem. What are the kinds of things
that I see?
Yeah.
Oh, we've worked with so many people that have had problems, and you're right. The number one thing is actually having to do with the finances.
Yeah.
There's struggles about finances, or then the next thing is the children, how to raise the children, and that's the next problem.
Right.
But you're right. It is the little things, whether he left his socks on the floor or she didn't do the dishes. And so these little things are coming into the stronghold of the family to destroy that family.
Right.
So it starts from within the stronghold to spread throughout the inside of it.
Yes.
And that's where it gets scary, because you don't want that decay inside of the family to be there.
Right.
Right? So the squeezing of the toothpaste in the middle, really, if you think about it, it's not a big deal, but people make it a big deal.
Well, even the big things, you know what? A lot of people think that the surface things, the things that everybody complains about, is the problem.
Yes.
Money is not the problem. The toothpaste is not the problem. What was the other things? Oh, children.
Oh, yeah, children.
They're not the problem. Mm-hmm. There's a level below that.
Well, there is a middle level.
Well, I'm talking about the level of finger pointing.
Oh, yeah, finger pointing. Mm-hmm. So when people have these attacks inside the home, they don't want to think that it's them.
Right.
They want to think that it's somebody else.
Yeah.
And so they start pointing fingers.
Yes.
You know, how many times have we done that, right? Did we just do that this morning?
I know.
Just this morning. It's like, it's so funny. It is just hilarious, because Leland here, he likes to leave all the lights on in the house. And so I'm going around shutting off all the lights. But the funny thing is, he doesn't turn off his own lights, but he then turns off the light on me. So here I am trying to get ready this morning, and the light goes off. Right?
I didn't know you were in the room.
I know. And I went, Leland, I'm in here. So, but I started finger pointing, because I said to him, you won't turn off your own lights, but you turn off the light on me, right? Yeah. And so then I had to backpedal, because I was nervous, right, about trying to get my schedule on time and everything. So I was finger pointing at you this morning and trying to make it your issue, instead of, it's okay that the light went off, right?
Right. And so the top level things of the lights isn't the problem.
It's not the problem.
The level that we're talking about right now, the finger pointing, the complaining, the blaming, the silent treatments, and all, the arguments, that's not even the problem. It's a level lower than that.
Yes, it is, actually. There's multiple levels that go into this, and people don't realize that. They don't realize the effect that all of the things that are playing out have their levels, their degrees, their different places in the way that things unfold. People also, some of them call them triggers, right?
Okay.
It's a trigger. And this trigger gets set off. Like, you turned the light off on me. That was a trigger that made it so that I went to you. Well, now why are you turning off the lights when you don't do it for yourself, but now you're doing it on me, right? And so it was a trigger for me. So really, it wasn't the issue of the light being turned off. It was the issue of past experience that you don't turn off your own light, and I'm always turning off the light, right?
And so this kind of thing kind of makes the walls of our Zion, the walls of our fortress, our stronghold, kind of weak.
It does.
Start to crumble.
It does. It starts to crumble the inside of our home. And did you feel like we weren't connected at that point?
Oh, yeah.
The connection between us wasn't very good. We had this space between us that, we needed to pull back into to one another. But that's how it happens. These little things get in the way of turning off the light and starting to point fingers that puts a division between us. It's like we separate from each other, like we pull apart from each other, right? And that's something that we need to notice. And after we come back from the commercial break that we're going to go on right now, I want to talk about that.
But the step lower than that.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Okay.
That's where we're going to go.
If you are frustrated with increased complaining, blaming, or silent treatments, if you have challenges with jealousy or feeling not good enough, if you are afraid of being controlled, ignored, or even cheated on, reach out to us. We help you put back the bounce in his step and the sparkle in her eyes. We are UpStep Development, marriage and life coaches. We sponsored this program for you. Reach us at upstepdevelopment.com.
Welcome back to Zion in Mind podcast. And we are talking about the Zion inside the family core today.
Yes, the stronghold or the fortress of the family.
Yes. And we had brought up about the kids building the fort in our living room
Right.
this weekend and how they were sectioning it off and having their own space, right?
Right.
And so it's important to understand that when, even as a child, that we're trying to develop the space around us, that we have a safety. We have a safety place that we know that we can go to, that we feel comfortable in, and that's what the kids were doing with their fort this
Right.
weekend, right? So they designed these little places and they put all their little things inside of it, and that was their space. Well, we do that as kids, and we carry that with us all the way to adulthood.
So in marriage, we have the way that we've grown up, the way that our family worked
Yes.
as we were growing up.
Yes.
And so we take the example of our family and think that that's the only way that it is.
Yes. Yes, we do.
And so when we put two people together, they have two different visions of what's supposed to happen in a family.
Yes.
And they're trying to build one unified fortress from two ideas of what a fortress is supposed to be.
Or what it looks like or how it feels. Yeah.
Right.
And so putting two people together to make a unit or a fortress, they have to work with one another, right? They have to be able to go back and forth and work out that fortress and have that communication and that connection together to be able to make that fortress work. But there's things that get into the way, right? So things get into the way where they have triggers come up, what we've been talking about, triggers that come up. So a trigger might be that you turned the light off on me, right? Or that you or I squeeze the toothpaste in the middle instead of at the end to pull it up, right?
I could never understand why. What's the big deal about toothpaste?
Right. It's supposed to be from the bottom up and not in the middle, right?
Yeah, and I'm trying to remember how you do it, and I think you do it differently than I. But it's like, what's the big deal? So Bonnie does it. I think you do it from the bottom up,
Right.
but I don't like it that way. But I don't care, so I just do it.
Right.
So what's the big deal? But yeah.
But
so-
some people do make it a big deal, right? And so we started to talk about how inside of them, it's not about the toothpaste.
Right.
It's not about the light being turned off. It's actually something inside of them that got triggered, that happened inside of them to be able to then point fingers
right.
and not take responsibility for themselves, right? And that's what starts to destroy the Zion of the home.
Right.
Because those feelings and those emotions and the misunderstandings happen, and then we're pointing fingers, and then it gets into the communication. Because sometimes, like when the light got turned off this morning, I usually don't say anything, right? This morning it got turned off on me, right? And I usually don't say anything, but then all of a sudden I had this trigger that came up, and then it came out my mouth, right?
Right.
And I said something. And so it wasn't really about the light. It was about something else that was inside of me, something that had been there before. And that was the fact that I have to always turn off the lights for you. And then you turn off the lights when I don't want them off, right?
Right.
And so then it's like, why did you do that?
Yeah.
And so then I'm pointing fingers at you.
And then the strange thing is when either of us points a finger at the other, then that draws emotions up in me.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I was like, we're trying to prepare for the day, and why are you bringing this up? And I'm like, It's like, don't do this. It's time to think of other things. It's like, I didn't. And it's like,
Right. And then you have to remind me, okay, let's focus on what needs to be done so we can get where we need to get, right? And so then I thought to myself, oh yeah, that's what I need to do, right? But we started working together again.
Yes.
We started connecting again. But a lot of people have a problem to keep that going in a perpetual motion forward to attack the other person, to attack them and be the winner.
or to do the opposite. They see that their partner is upset, and they take it on. It's like,
Oh, yeah.
it's like,
yeah.
well, like this morning, Bonnie was not happy about the light being turned off, and so I'm like, oh, if I was just better at making, doing things right, then Bonnie will be happy and our day will go a lot better. And so I was taking responsibility for Bonnie's emotions when I should just stay centered in myself.
In your own self. Right. So these things that we have happen in that middle section of pointing fingers and making it so that it's the other person's fault, we need to be aware of that. That's the key. Don't you agree that we need to have awareness? That the number one step is to have that awareness with each other of what's happening around us and in our circumstances. But it all comes down to us. It all comes down to what we are feeling inside. It's not about you.
Okay, so
Right?
what I'm hearing is we need to build a fortress for us,
Yes.
but we also need to build a fortress for ourselves.
Yes.
And just because I build a fortress doesn't mean that Bonnie is no longer part of our fortress. I need to be strong in myself.
Yes. And I need to be strong in myself. And when I'm strong in myself and you're strong in yourself, then we become one.
Right.
We can be strong for each other.
And then our joint fortress can become really strong.
And the cool thing about that is when we become strong as a unit and not have the toothpaste affect us or the light switches affect us.
Or even the big things, the finance.
The finances.
If you can control the little things like they are,
Well,
anything's a little thing.
Well, it starts with little things.
Okay.
It starts with little things. I have to say that it starts with little things because you don't look at something and then just have this great big huge explosion inside of you. It's just the little things that stack up and add up. It starts with the toothpaste. Well, why did he do that? Or why is he turning off the lights? Or are you looking at me and why did she do that? Or why did she do that? And so we start with the little things, and those little things build up to be bigger things. It stacks up so that when a big thing comes up like finances, then the explosion happens. And that becomes a bigger thing. Right. So it's the heavier, bigger things that get blown out of proportion, right? When the little things start stacking up.
So the little things are blown out of proportion, and then the big things happen, and they get blown out of proportion.
Even worse.
Right.
Yeah.
And then underneath of that is the blaming and complaining.
And the pointing fingers. Oh, and then you've got to understand too that I think we've got to bring in the fact that people will go into silent treatment.
Oh, silent treatments are just as
awful.
Yes. Just as destroying, yes.
It is destroying. Those silent treatments are there that cause you to be in a space where you're really separated and not connected, right? And so when you're in those silent treatments, you're still pointing fingers. You're trying to prove a point, right?
Well, now there is the silent, it's not a silent treatment. There is a time when silence is good, where you need to take a step back. When you feel your emotions heighten, your negative emotions heighten, sometimes you need to take a step back and go within yourself and be silent within yourself.
Yes.
And sometimes I guess people will interpret the withdrawal that needs to happen as a silent treatment.
Right.
But within yourself, whether you're doing a silent treatment, punish Bonnie because she blah, 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 versus, my emotions are kind of heightened right now and kind of negative right now. I need to retreat into myself. I need to settle myself down. I need to be responsible for my own emotions.
Yes, I agree with you. So there's two sides to the coin
Right.
on that silent treatment, right? One's healthy and one isn't healthy, and we're talking about the health of the family. And so if we see it as the health of the family for working ourself and becoming healthy ourself, then the family is expanded.
Right.
It expands into the family, expands into the children, right? And our home is then a fortress of good, right?
Right.
And so working on ourselves and pulling back is a good thing sometimes. So I agree with that. I totally agree with that. Those silent treatments can be beneficial, but I think the communication needs to come in to say to my partner, to say to you, Leland, I need 5 or I need 10, and
Yeah, well, when emotions are involved, it's more than 10. Emotions take about 20 minutes.
yes,
We both know
yes,
that
yes, they do. Yes, they do.
So
Emotions are sensitive.
it takes time.
It does take time for the hormones and everything and the chemicals that are inside of us to dwindle down. I agree. Totally agree with you. So yeah, having those emotions settle down within us so that when we come back to talk to each other, we cannot talk about the toothpaste, but we talk about what's really going on inside of us.
And not even talk about you did, I did, kind of finger pointing, the kind of or the bad kind of silent treatment. So we can have conversations about what really matters, the stuff that's below even those emotions.
Yeah, I totally agree. So in building the fortress, in building our Zion, so you're talking about making it so that we are in connection with one another instead of dividing one another, and making it so that we come together and talk and communicate and release the emotion or not have the emotion involved, right?
Absolutely.
Right. So when we come back, I would like to talk about how we take the steps to make sure that we are in that space that we can work on ourselves and build a better Zion.
We're going to talk about personal power.
Yeah.
Personal power. Most people say, personal power? I don't need personal power for a marriage.
Right. And they have a different concept of what personal power really is. They're confused about. There's a lot of people confused about it.
Right.
And so we're gonna delve into that a little bit as we come back from this break.
It's going to be a lot of fun.
Okay. Be back in a minute.
Today's sponsor is Temple in Mind. Gazing upon the house of the Lord reminds us of the simple phrase, choose the right. This powerful reminder turns us back to temples time and time again, and gives us the strength to carry on through the best and worst of times. They love temples and what they represent, so they have a collection of timeless, unique items to help keep your home centered around what really matters. At Temple in Mind, they have something for everyone and every occasion. They hope you'll be as excited as they are to help light the world with items that truly keep temples in mind. Visit their store at the University Place Mall in Orem, Utah, or check out their website at templeinmind.com.
Welcome back to the podcast.
Yes.
We're so excited. We've had a lot of fun talking about things that, were real. It's not just pretend here. We understand what's going on.
We do. We've been there. And those emotions are real, right?
Yeah.
Those things happen that are real.
Right. It's not about the top level things, big or small. It's not the toothpaste. It's not the finances. It's not the kids. It's not the light switch.
It's not.
It's about it's not even about the things that happen because of that. It's not about the finger pointing. It's not about the blaming and complaining. It's deeper than that.
Or the silent treatments.
Or the silent treatments. Right.
Yeah.
It's not about those things. It's level deeper. It's emotions that cause those things.
Right. Emotions that have happened to us in the past. Things that we're carrying with us that have us in a state where that we're sensitive when something else comes back up and it triggers us, right? Those triggers are always going off inside of us if we haven't taken care of what those emotions are inside of us. But I wanted to talk about how to solve the things that happen inside of us. How can we make it so it doesn't trigger? But I want to bring up that what happened to us this last weekend, before the grandkids came. So we went up to the mountains, and we went for a nice drive, and it was wonderful. And as we went up to the mountains, and we were going on this really windy road.
I don't like heights.
Right. And there's no guardrail on the other side. And it's a sheer cliff, right? On the other side. And Leland's a little nervous about that kind of stuff, right?
I tell you what, that was one of the most, it was just
Knuckles.
white knuckles.
Knuckles on the steering wheel.
And you said, shall I drive? I'm like, no, I've got to be in control here, because if you're driving, then I have no control at all.
Right. Right.
Okay.
Right. And so your knuckles were just dead set on that. I mean, they were going literally white.
I didn't know that.
Side of, yes, I noticed it.
Okay.
So they were dead. I mean, they were just so white, and you're gripping that steering wheel so hard. I was wondering if it was going to come off, actually, because you were holding it so tight. But then you'd go around the corners hoping that another car wasn't flying down the mountain,
Right?
Because it was a little. I'm talking when cars bypass
Just
you,
2 lanes, and
you
that's
just
all.
barely miss each other, right?
Yeah.
Because it was so narrow,
No
that
berm.
road,
Right.
Right. And I would look on the side of the road, and inside the side of the road was the dirt. But do you know how much there was of dirt gone against that pavement?
It was like a cliff from the road to the side.
Right. I could just see our tire going in there and then just flipping the car. Right. And so it made me nervous. It made me scrunch.
You were nervous too.
So I was white knuckling the door handle and the dashboard.
And I was so concentrating on the road that I didn't see anything you were doing.
Right.
Nothing.
And then it was funny because I'd glance up and look over and see the beautiful scenery, and I'd say, oh, you got to stop. Look. And then we'd stop and we'd look over and relax for a minute. And then we could look at the beautiful scenery, right? But it was so intense. It was just so intense. And we finally got up to the top. And it was beautiful. We stopped the car, we got out, we breathed, we inhaled the fresh air, and we let all of our emotions relax, right?
Right.
But here we are in this beautiful scenery, and looking out over the valley and seeing the beauty that God has created, right? And then we came back together because I think we were in our own space, really trying to have our own safety. While we were in our car.
Well, we actually had a conflict then. Remember, because I would hug the middle of the road, and you're like, no, too far. They're going to crash into us.
Yeah, around those curves, because it was making me nervous, right? So when you would go around a curve, you couldn't see because of all the foliage and the mountain itself. Right. And so I was so afraid that somebody was going to go whipping around that corner and smack right into us because the road was so little.
And you kept saying, further out.
Yeah,
further out.
Go over to the right. Go over to the right.
Yeah. I'm like, no, I don't want to.
It's too close to the edge. I know.
So that could have created a conflict.
Right. So inside of myself, when we were having that experience, I wanted to say, Kate, stop the car and let me drive.
No, not happening.
I brought my license. I can drive. But then I started to think to myself, I'm okay. Leland's so afraid of going over the cliff. He's not going to go over the cliff because he's staying so far away from that cliff. I'm safe, and we're not going to go over the cliff. So my awareness came into play, right?
Absolutely.
So I've taken this time to practice my awareness. When I have awareness, I literally look at my surroundings to see if I'm safe. Look at myself inside, and I was okay. I was safe. And so then I would be in this place of being safe, and then I'd relax, and my white knuckles were relaxing on the door and the dash. Well, no, it's not a dash, it's a console.
The console.
Is it console in the middle? Yeah. So the console, I would relax on the console and put my hands in my lap again and just have them relaxed. And then all of a sudden we'd go around another corner and I was back, and I had to bring my awareness back in, right?
Right.
So that awareness is so important. That awareness of being able to say, no, I am safe.
And I think this is why we didn't have a conflict between us, because of personal power.
Yes.
Okay, no, we teased you with personal power.
Yeah, before the commercial.
Okay.
Right.
And when I looked on the internet, I didn't see a definition of personal power that had anything to do with what's going on in me.
I know. We've researched this for years and years and years. And we just recently tried to look again, right, for about personal power. And you would think that the definition of personal power would be very cut and dry. Well, it is cut and dry in some aspects of the way that people define it. Personal power is the way that they control their workspace, control the people that they're over, control the way that they handle and manipulate people. That's what they're calling personal power today.
It's really, it doesn't, and that's not anything about what really strengthens you, makes you strong, makes your relationship strong.
Right.
So
right.
we've developed a great definition of personal power.
Yes.
Personal power is the ability to have your thoughts and feelings create actions that align with integrity to your own values.
Right, right. So our personal power is dependent upon our integrity that's inside of us, our integrity that plays out with our mind and our heart,
Right.
and the thoughts that we think, the feelings that we think, and the actions then that we do.
Right.
Right.
So if our actions are out of line with our value, then our emotions go all ski-wumpus. Is that a real word?
It's a real word. You use it all the time.
Okay. All right. Our emotions go out go into chaos. We go into bad emotions because we're no longer in alignment with our values. There's no integrity between what we're doing and what we believe should be done.
Right, right. And so when we're out of alignment with ourselves, in understanding what we think is the reality of our existence, we then are not in a place of Zion. We're not in a place where we are strong in ourselves.
Yep.
Because Zion needs to start within ourselves.
Now, we don't have personal power. We've given personal power away to other people.
Yep, yep. And so to define what personal power is, again, in that aspect, is that personal power is a place where you are developing something within yourself to become strong within yourself. And it's not about anybody else around you. It's not about your spouse. It's not about your children. It's not about your mom or dad. It's not about anybody else. Your personal power is yours. And it's not dependent upon anybody else. So I just wanted to clarify that, right?
Okay.
It's within the individual.
So we were able to do this in the mountain climb and back down. Okay.
And back down. Well, we didn't talk about coming back down.
Well, it wasn't as bad.
It wasn't.
It's weird, but it wasn't as bad coming back. But I was able to stay in my personal power because I knew that you were worried about safety. I was worried about safety. And so there was no out of alignment with my values. What you were expressing to me was really in alignment with what I wanted anyway.
Right.
And so I didn't yell at you. I didn't say, quiet, I'm concentrating. It didn't go bad.
It didn't. It didn't. So because we worked with one another and helped one another talk through it, right?
Right.
It was wonderful. And we went down the mountain. I know why you weren't so nervous going down.
Well, why is that?
Because you were hugging the mountain and you weren't on the edge.
Okay. Okay. So I think we should give the example of the opposite with the light switch. I wasn't in my personal power when you said, why do you turn off the light switch for me but not for yourself? And the problem there was I was not in my personal power because I recognized that I wasn't doing what needed to be done according to what I thought was right. And because I wasn't in alignment with my values, I took on the negative emotion
Right,
that
right.
you were handing me.
Right. And so I think the key to this is the awareness.
Yes.
Coming back to awareness.
Yes.
Awareness of your reality, awareness that it starts with you, awareness that your Zion starts with inside of yourself. And the Zion that's inside of yourself has to do with your integrity and your values, right? Yeah. And if you can have a strong hold on that inside of yourself and stay inside of yourself and not let other people affect you outside, that's where you become strong. That's personal power.
So we can build a fortress, not of little plastic
Legos,
not of link lugs, not of cat mattresses, not even of snow, not even of stone and steel. We build fortresses. We build Zion of things that really matter.
Things that matter inside.
So that we can be strong and safe together and as a family.
Yes. When it starts inside, then it spreads out to the family.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, this has been really important.
It has been important.
Yeah.
I'm glad we spent time talking about this.
So we would love to serve any of you who would love to understand how to develop your personal power. You can reach us at upstepdevelopment.com, and we'd love to serve you.
Yes.
So this has been the Zion in Mind podcast. I'm Leland Coford.
And I'm Bonnie Coford.
Good to talk to you today.
Bye.
Bye now.
Today's podcast has been sponsored by UpStep Development and Temple in Mind. Thank you so much for listening.